Wow, that's pretty loud. It's a good sound system you got here. Hey, right now I just want you guys to know, I'm not here, I'm running as a Republican, but I'm not here to serve the Republican Party, the Democrat Party, the Libertarian, or anything other than what's standing up for what is right. Right now there's a complete attempt to divide this nation over every single reason that you can think of. And it's a real problem. We have so many patriot groups who are afraid to stand side by side because of the way it looks. We have to begin to stop thinking about what the world thinks and think about what God thinks. Think about what is right. Think about what your heart tells you to do. Follow that path and we'll begin to make real change in this country. Right now, we have a constitution that's been trampled all over, long time ago. We have over 20,000 laws regarding the Second Amendment, your right to buy a gun and to own a gun. Does that sound like shall not be infringed? It sounds like it was infringed 19,999 laws ago. 20,000 laws is out of control. We spend so much time trying to stop the gun grabbers from passing more laws. We need to push to get rid of over half of these laws that we have, including in Washington State. We also have, I talked about this last week, okay? I asked the crowd last week, I said, hey, how many people here know how many federal laws we have? You know, and people had their guesses, and the only person that was actually right is she said that we have too many. The truth is that nobody knows how many laws we have in this federal government. They can't even count how many laws that we have. How the hell are we supposed to even read through every single law and understand how to be a law-abiding citizen? They overcomplicate these laws on purpose so that if think about this. Look, the government doesn't like certain people, okay? Let's say you're conservative, you're a Christian. This is what happened over when Obama was in office. If they want to target you, they can find a law that you broke because you can't even count how many laws there are. On average, there are about 3 felonies that each person makes each day. 3 felonies. This is a problem that we have in our country. Think about how upset our forefathers would be that we've allowed it to happen over and over and over again. They literally look at our Congress and they look at how many laws they pass, how many bills they pass, to see how successful they've been. It's the opposite. It's about, if they didn't pass one bill throughout the whole year, I would say that's a great accomplishment. We need people who will go over to DC and will constantly vote no over and over and over again because we got to slow down the bureaucracy. Right now we have over 400 agencies, such as the FDA, the Bureau of Land Management, and that's just an estimate because a lot of the agencies don't even know what they are, or that it's a secret. This is one of the biggest attacks on our freedom because we have these agencies, like the Bureau of Land Management, that constantly break the Constitution, and there's no checks and balances. The Bureau of Land Management owns over half, or almost 50% of the land on the West Coast, and that is unconstitutional. Do you guys understand that? It is unconstitutional for the federal government to own any land unless it is used for the military. But we just comply. We just have accepted it. They own half of our land on the West Coast, and what I don't understand is why, especially, look at, you got the boy back there on the flag. How is it that we don't have thousands of people on the street standing against this empire that is destroying all our rights, all our liberties? Instead, we just comply. The FDA, the Federal Drug Administration, the FDA, is one of the most corrupt agencies that we have. We don't hear this from the Republicans enough. We don't hear about the corruption in the private sector. The FDA is the strong arm for Big Pharma. The FDA is consistently passing poison for the Big Pharma, putting it into the mouths of our kids and our veterans. But they hold down all the drugs that actually cure you because these Big Pharma companies, they don't want you to be cured. They don't want that. They want you to stay sick for the rest of your life and you keep taking the drugs. If the FDA would move out of the way, the regulations, the cost of our medication would drop so fast, it is unbelievable. It takes $3 billion to get a drug approved. 10 years. So that cuts out all the independent scientists, those at the bottom. That is such a simple solution to what we have, to one of the problems that we have in the healthcare, that it doesn't matter if you're left or right. It's not even a political thing, it's just common sense. Get the government out of the way, the government that's owned by the big business, by all the corrupt big banks, big pharma. Lower our government and make it smaller, give less power to our government, and let the free market take it over, and the cost of our medication or any simple product in this country will go down. All right, do we have any Bernie supporters here today? Come on, don't be scared. Come on. Okay, all right, yeah, you're too afraid to admit it. All right, here we go. Bernie supporters. Here's how we got to connect with Bernie supporters. There are Bernie supporters who actually do have a brain, okay? Believe me, I've talked to them, okay? Some of them not, but one of the main things is that they're concerned about the private sector, big business, big banks, big pharma, and I am concerned about it too. Here's the thing though, we have to understand that the government, the politicians are owned by these big businesses, these big banks. Every single regulation that they pass, it is with the intent to hold down normal people like us, hold down small business, hold down all the normal people so that we can't rise up and compete with these big banks and big businesses. You look at the tax code, which is so complicated, 40,000 pages long. The normal people, us, we can't buy the lawyers to find the loopholes, while the big banks, they consistently get away with all the tax loopholes. This is what we have to begin to preach as Republicans, to understand that we are not for the corruption in the private sector. We just want people to get rich the right way. We just want people to rise up in a free market. We want to make it as easy as possible for those who are poor, through hard work, through living the American dream, to rise up and to get rich and to compete with the big corporations. Woo! One other thing that drives me crazy, okay, we've complied, we comply, okay? Property taxes is unconstitutional because we basically have no right to property anymore. When you buy a house, when you buy land with your money that you've saved up, and the government steps in and says that you have to pay rent on that property, it means that we no longer own it, okay? You look at Seattle, Seattle is going down the drain, okay? Seattle, they raise the property taxes so high, right? They cause a homeless problem because they're kicking families out of the streets because they can't afford their mortgage, they can't afford the rent because of the property taxes. And then to help with the homeless problem, they begin to go after the job creators and tax them with the head tax, and they make a problem even worse. This is the thing, we have to begin to push back on these property taxes as much as we possibly can. We need the smallest tax that we can do. This is why I truly believe in a sales tax, both locally like we do have in the state of Washington and federally, because you don't even have to have a tax code. And there's no loopholes. Every single time you go and buy a product, you pay your tax right then, right there, right? And there's no corruption. It doesn't matter how rich you are, it doesn't matter how poor you are, we all pay our fair share. But we will no longer find it acceptable that we have to pay rent for property that we own. Okay, I'll finish up with this, I'll conclude with this. Listen, I believe, wholeheartedly, I believe with all my heart that we are well beyond a point that our forefathers were, okay, when they decided to start a revolution. And these men did everything that they can to change the culture, to change the whole ideology, because people were so used to looking at a king as someone who will bring safety, right? Someone who is divine. That's the way they looked at these kings. But eventually, our forefathers realized that King George did not represent the people. King George did not represent God. King George rejected the authority of God, so they rejected the authority of King George. And here's what I really believe, and I said this last week, but I believe that we have Washington, D.C. that is filled with politicians that rejected God a long time ago, and they no longer represent the American people. So I do believe that it's time that we reject the authority of these politicians in Washington, D.C. That's what's got to happen. So Benjamin Franklin was running around the forefathers like madmen, just a couple men trying to change the culture, and he came up with a quote, which I think is really important. I'm going to begin saying this with every single speech, okay, every single speech. But rebellion to tyrants is obedience to God. It is 100%. We have to stop looking like obedience to God is inaction. Keep your head down. Don't sin. Don't do this. That has plagued our churches. That is why the preachers are staying inside. That's why they refuse to speak up. Because they believe if they keep their head down, that's obedience to God. But rebellion to tyrants and everything that make up tyrants, including corruption. So if you stand up against the corruption in our government, that is obedience to God. And that's the spirit that we got to bring back into this country. Because when you begin to bring that spirit inside, that's how you walk. That's how you live your life. You will no longer care what everyone else says. You will no longer care about what people think about you. You will not care when people slander your name because you have a higher cause, you have a higher purpose, and that's what we got to do. We got to unite, come together for the higher cause, and to take back this country. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much.
Free thought for free people.